Part I. The Ashes of Versailles. 1919. 1933. In June 1919, the world tried to end the war that had devastated Europe. The leaders of the victorious nations gathered at Versailles. They wanted peace. They wanted order. They wanted to make sure such a war would never happen again. But the treaty they created did not bring true healing. Germany was forced to accept blame. It lost territory. Its military was restricted, and its economy was burdened with heavy reparations. For the victors, Versailles was justice. For many Germans, it felt like humiliation. The First World War was over, but the anger it left behind was still alive. During the 1920s, Germany's Weimar Republic struggled to survive. Inflation destroyed savings. Political violence filled the streets. Trust in democracy weakened. Then, in October 1929, the American stock market collapsed. The Great Depression spread across the world. Banks failed. Factories closed. Millions lost their jobs. Fear became part of daily life. And in times of fear, people often search for simple answers. In Germany, Adolf Hitler used that fear. He promised to restore national pride. He blamed Germany's problems on enemies, traitors, and scapegoats. He offered anger instead of reason. He offered revenge instead of peace. His Nazi party grew stronger as desperation deepened. He did not speak of compromise. He spoke of struggle. He did not speak of democracy. He spoke of absolute power. In January 1933, Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Within months, German democracy was dismantled. Civil liberties were suspended. Political opponents were arrested or silenced. The press was controlled. Power was concentrated in one party, under one leader. A dictatorship had risen in the heart of Europe. The world had not yet entered another war. But the path toward war was already being built. Part II, The Rising Tides of Militarism. 1931. 1938. Europe was not the only place where the old world order was breaking apart. In East Asia, Japan faced economic pressure, limited resources, and a growing population. Military leaders in Tokyo believed the answer was expansion. In 1931, Japanese forces used an explosion near a railway line as a reason to invade Manchuria. It was a warning to the world, but the warning was ignored. The League of Nations had been created to prevent aggression, but when Japan invaded Manchuria, the League protested and did little more. Japan simply left the organization. To leaders in Rome and Berlin, the lesson was clear. The international system looked strong on paper, but in reality, it lacked the will to act. In Italy, Benito Mussolini dreamed of building a new empire. In 1935, Italian forces invaded Ethiopia. Ethiopia appealed to the League of Nations for help, but again, the response was weak. Aggression had been rewarded with hesitation. The old balance of power was failing. A new alliance of militarized dictatorships was beginning to take shape. In March 1936, Hitler took a dangerous gamble. He sent German troops into the Rhineland, a region that had been demilitarized after World War I. At the time, Germany's army was still weak. If France had acted, German forces would likely have retreated, but France did not move. Britain hesitated, and Hitler learned another lesson. Risk could bring victory. If his enemies lacked the will to stop him, In 1938, Germany annexed Austria. Then Hitler demanded the Sudetenland, a German-speaking region of Czechoslovakia. Britain and France still wanted to avoid war. At Munich, they agreed to give Hitler what he wanted, hoping this would satisfy him. This policy became known as appeasement. To many people at the time, it seemed like peace had been saved, but it was only an illusion. 6 months later, German troops occupied the rest of Czechoslovakia. Appeasement had failed. Hitler had shown that his promises could not be trusted. Europe was running out of time. Part 2. The Spark and the Fire. Icenjobai Centrjo. In August of 1930, the world was shocked by an unexpected agreement. Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union signed a non-aggression pact. Publicly, they promised not to attack each other. Secretly, they agreed to divide Poland between them. For Hitler, the pact removed the danger of a two-front war. The road to invasion was now open. At 4:45 inches the morning, on September 1st, German forces crossed into Poland. World War II had begun in Europe. Germany used a new style of warfare called blitzkrieg, or lightning war. Tanks, aircraft, artillery, and infantry moved together at high speed. The goal was not only to defeat the enemy, it was to shock, confuse, and paralyze them. Poland fought bravely, but it was attacked from two sides. On September 25, the Soviet Union invaded from the east. Britain and France declared war on Germany on September 3, but they could not save Poland in time. Within weeks, Poland was crushed between two expanding empires. The fire had been lit. After Poland fell, Western Europe became strangely quiet. For months, Britain and France faced Germany across fortified borders. Journalists called it the phony war. Soldiers waited. Politicians hoped. Civilians listened to the radio and wondered what would come next. But behind the silence, Germany was preparing a new strike. Part IV, the collapse of the West. June 1940. On May 10th, the storm broke. Germany invaded Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and France. The Allies expected the main German attack to come through Belgium, just as it had in World War I. So they sent their strongest forces north. But this was exactly what Germany wanted. The main German attack came through the Ardennes, a forested region the Allies believed was difficult for tanks to cross. They were wrong. German tanks broke through the French lines. They moved with shocking speed. Communication collapsed. Orders arrived too late. Entire divisions were cut off. Within days, Allied armies in the north were trapped. The road to the English Channel had been opened. By late May, hundreds of thousands of Allied soldiers were trapped at Dunkirk. The sea was behind them. The German army was closing in. Britain launched Operation Dynamo, a desperate evacuation across the English Channel. Naval ships, fishing boats, lifeboats, and small civilian vessels all joined the rescue. Under attack from the air, they crossed the water again and again. More than 338,000 troops were saved. Dunkirk became a symbol of courage and survival, but it was not a military victory. Much equipment had been abandoned. France was left in terrible danger, and the German army continued its advance. On June 14, German troops entered Paris. On June 22, France surrendered. The armistice was signed in the same railway carriage where Germany had surrendered in 1918. For Hitler, it was revenge. For Europe, it was a disaster. In only 6 weeks, France had fallen. Britain now stood alone. Part V, The Few. July, October 1940. After France fell, Hitler turned toward Britain to invade the island. Germany first needed control of the skies. The Battle of Britain became the first major campaign fought entirely in the air. The Luftwaffe attacked. The Royal Air Force rose to meet it. Britain was outnumbered, but it had radar, skilled pilots, and a people determined not to surrender. Through the summer of 1940, young pilots flew again and again. They came from Britain, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Canada, and other nations. Many were exhausted. Many were very young, but they held the line. Every day, the future of Britain depended on the sky above them. When Germany failed to destroy the RAF, Hitler changed tactics. German bombers began attacking British cities. This became known as the Blitz. For 57 consecutive nights, London was bombed. Families slept in underground stations. Firefighters worked through the night. Civilians emerged each morning to clear rubble and continue living. The goal was to break British morale, but Britain did not break. By October 1940, Germany had failed to win control of the skies. The planned invasion of Britain, called Operation Sea Lion, was postponed indefinitely. Churchill later honored the RAF pilots with words that became legendary. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Britain had survived, but the war was far from over. Part V, The Widening Struggle. Late 1940, mid 1941. Unable to defeat Britain directly, the Axis War expanded into new regions. Mussolini's campaigns in Greece and North Africa struggled. Germany stepped in to support its ally and secure its southern flank. In North Africa, General Erwin Rommel led German forces across the desert. His army threatened Egypt, the Suez Canal, and Britain's access to vital oil routes. By the spring of 1941, much of continental Europe was under Axis control or influence. From France to the Balkans, millions lived under occupation. Food was rationed. Freedom was restricted. Fear became part of everyday life. But even in occupied cities, resistance began to form. Small groups met in secret. Messages were passed in silence. Hope survived in the shadows. The first phase of World War II ended with the Axis powers at the height of their strength. Germany dominated much of Europe. Britain survived, but stood isolated. North Africa and the Balkans had become new battlefields. The war was no longer a limited European conflict. It was becoming a global struggle. And the next phase would bring even greater fire.